TEDx.
In my lifetime, for me, there are 2 days that stand out in American history that are transformational and even spiritual. The first one is the moon landing, and the second one is this, the March on Washington. August 28th, 1963. I was just 7 years old at the time, watching it on a terrible television that my parents owned. My father's outside cutting the grass. And I knew then that it was incredibly important, and I've never forgotten it. For the past year, I've been producing a documentary that will air on PBS stations in 2013. The title is Eye on the 60s. The subject is the person to the right of President Kennedy, Rowland Scherman, a Life magazine photographer who was hired by the U.S. Information Agency to document the March on Washington that day. Rowland worked exceptionally hard, living on adrenaline, not stopping to eat or to drink, because what was happening around him was too important to miss. What you're about to see is his incredible take on that day. It's but one moment in his extraordinary photography career.
The buzz on the March on Washington started buzzing about a month beforehand, and practically every day, or almost every day, I showed up at the offices of USIA because I was working for them all the time, many assignments for them. And I said, how are you going to cover it? And they said, well, we're not sure. And I said, well, I'll be happy to help you out. And they said, really? And I said, yeah, sure. And they said, well, what if we give you double your day rate? Could we have the film afterwards for the archives? That sounded like a good deal to me. Double my day rate. Of course, I didn't realize that the March on Washington was going to be one of the great historic events of all time, at least in my lifetime. I think that was $200 a day, which was real dough in 1963. So it was a month's rent. Well, double my day rate was good. Plus the fact I had a unbeatable entree as working for the U.S. government. I couldn't be stymied from going anywhere, so I had free range of anywhere I wanted to go, unlike many photographers. And I was 26 or 27 years old and very spry and very athletic, and I climbed over everything and went everywhere, and I photographed close-ups, long shots. I worked pretty hard that day. Faces in the crowd, all the celebrities, amazing number of celebrities. A lot of my heroes were there. Gordon Parks, a great photographer. Jackie Robinson, the brilliant baseball player. And Harry Belafonte, Paul Newman, Marlon Brando, Charlton Heston. They were all there. And I was among them shooting their pictures. It was like a dream come true. I don't think anyone in our lifetime had seen that kind of crowd, at least anyone in America had seen that kind of crowd before. It was awe-inspiring. I think the idea behind that march, as all marches, was to get press coverage. The size of the crowd equals more press coverage. I'm pretty sure I was just as impressed as everybody else. The size of the crowd was just a plus, because I knew it would make better pictures. But I think mostly I was impressed by the faces in the crowd.
Scherman got a few pictures of the crowds, the big crowds, but I think mostly he was interested in the people who were there.
As I panned through the crowd and started looking at faces, I saw some friends and I photographed them, and I saw the earnestness on this young lady with a flag, a March on Washington flag, and her look was so intense and so interested. What's really going on here? I figured if little girls can be that interested and that committed to the events that are present, it must be something special.
I think he felt in his bones that it was important for him to be there. Again, partly for the amazing opportunities to take pictures, but also as a reflection of his passion for progressive politics, which continues to this day. Partly it was a great opportunity for a photographer, but it also, again, like the Peace Corps, meant something to him. Rowland was an early civil rights guy.
When we find a journalist, like Rowland Scherman, for example, who takes what he does with extreme seriousness, when he goes out to cover a story, he knows what he's trying to do, he knows what the story is, he goes out and he gets the story from beginning to end. He is a perfect example of the kind of journalism and journalist that we don't have enough of today.
I just covered it the way I thought an event like this should be covered, so that anyone who wasn't there could see the breadth of it, could see the close-ups of it, to get a handle on the majesty and the importance of it. I just photographed it all in my way, and it turned out as well as it did.
There could be nothing but a sense of relief among a lot of Americans who thought, my God, blacks and whites are going to kill each other. No, they're not. There they are. They're getting along. Integration was the word we used in the South when it came to schools, but integration describes precisely what happened that day. I mean, blacks and whites were integrated as Americans. Not only did America see this, which is very, very important, far more important in my view was the world saw this. And the world had to have had a different view of America as a result of that day than they had before. There's absolutely no other way that Europeans and Asians and God knows what other could look at that and say, this is America. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. The challenges of finding a subject that will resonate with an audience and with you as a filmmaker is very difficult. It happens every day you wake up, every minute. It's a primal need. But when it finds you, it's like an old friend, something that usually comes out of your childhood, something that I swear the first 7 years of your life. In the case of a film I made a few years ago, A Gull Wing at Twilight, I combined a passion for race cars, my love of the American Western landscape, and my respect for the elderly, and it all came together to create that film. Jump ahead to, most recently, the March on Washington, these indelible images. Who knew that I would one day meet the photographer and that he'd only live 2 miles from my house? Thus, creative instinct became unleashed in me, which was a natural thing. That's me to the left, 2 weeks after meeting Rowland in front of 5,000 people, covering the arc of his story. He was also the first photographer in the Peace Corps, and that was their anniversary march. The end result, the effect, is what you saw. It's a film that people can see forever. The old friend did show up, meeting the creative instinct, and the creative instinct is here to remind us about what we really care about. The real joy is in sharing it. Thank you.